All right, welcome back to SouFLoTV again, everybody. It is your host with the most, man. Demons walk the face of this earth, and they dwell among us, is all I can say. Now, this headline says that the woman that was accused of killing her grandmother was actually at her house, the grandmother's house, for 10 days before she did the killing. But before I get into that, it was a 27-year-old female who is now in custody. She has been arrested and charged for the murder of her grandmother. How this all went down though, and how she left her grandmother is so gruesome. And I have a grandmother myself, and my grandmother is like end stages of life right now, and I'm trying to think, like, if I could get my grandmother another 100 years, I would. I would spend all the money in the world to make sure that she lives and lives, because she was such, your grandmother, what grandmother means to us, especially us Caribbean people who have like an older grandmother. So we didn't come from the generation that have like these young grandmother. She's a grandmother at 40 years old. We didn't come from that. I talk about the old matriarch of the family them that lay down the rules and regulations and give the love in abundance as well. That old granny that would pray for you more than she prays for herself. Anyhow, man. So her son was speaking, and her son says, "My mother didn't deserve that." This is 56-year-old Franklin Palmer. He's speaking of his mom, and when he got the news, he said, "My mother didn't deserve that." As he attempted to process the news that 84-year-old Adiva, otherwise known as Miss V. Palmer, was found stabbed to death in a chicken coop in her backyard in Smithfield, Manchester. I talk to her on video call every day because I'm not around her. We pray and we have devotions because she was a woman of God, he said. And then he broke down in tears and gathered himself enough to say more. Palmer and his daughter, Lorraine Palmer, they now live in Aruba. They've lived in Aruba for quite some time. And they were planning to visit Miss V in April of this year. They have been left in shambles at this point. He said, "What makes it so heartbreaking is the fact that I tried to take care of my mother so much, tried to keep her safe, and tell her every day to stay indoors because the COVID thing, and then to hear such a tragedy." Police reports are that Miss V of Smithfield District in Cross Keys, Manchester, she was at her home when an argument developed between her and her 27-year-old granddaughter. Police said that the young woman allegedly used a kitchen knife to stab Miss V multiple times in the upper regions of the body, and we have been told that she was stabbed multiple times in her chest and in her neck area. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell could your grandmother have done for you to use a kitchen knife and stab her up multiple times in her chest and neck area? That's crazy. You're 27 years old. And you know how these elderly people are. It's like, if you're in the house on Sunday, you go church on Sunday. I don't care if you don't live here. If you're visiting and you're here, they lay down these strict laws and rules for their house. My grandparents still do it to this day. You can't bring anybody here to sleep in the same bed with if you are not married by law. All these things. You can't bring nobody in here come talk about boyfriend or girlfriend shacking up for the night and these things. And younger generation people, they are offended by these things. And some of them will even go through lengths like this. Well, if me can't have man in here, or if I can't have woman in here, me move you out of the way then, granny. Because once you gone, me can do everything me want to do. The incident allegedly took place inside the house where the elderly Miss V, after she was stabbed multiple times in the upper body, she collapsed. However, that is what forensics shows. It also shows that her body was dragged by her granddaughter into a kitchen coop at the back of the house. Neighbors reportedly called the police. I heard that some of the neighbors saw something and called the police. I heard that others were smelling something and called the police. Either way, neighbors called the police. The granddaughter, who has been arrested for Miss V's murder, is said to be from the corporate area in Kingston, and she would travel to Manchester occasionally to visit her grandmother. It is understood that she was at the Smithfield residence for 10 days prior to Monday's incident. Palmer, who is the 8th of Miss V's 13 children, is hurt by the way that his mother met her demise. Getting the shocking news. Nothing at all could push anyone to do something like that to my mother. If only I knew something like this would happen, any amount of money I needed to bring her where I am, I would pay it. This is what Palmer said to the Star, and shout out to the Star for this article. Before getting the shocking news on Monday, Palmer said in his spirit, he just felt like something was wrong. And he said, I feel it in my spirit that something was going on. So when I got the call, I was like prepared, all ready for bad news. I know he didn't expect it to be this bad of a news. It is a terrible time for the family right now. It is only the strength of God keeping us. I'm holding on and I'm trusting the Lord for strength because this tragedy got me so weak. My mother was loving. She was caring. She cared for all her children and her grandkids. And she wanted the best for all of them. My daughter, which is Lorraine, she was so excited to see her grandma just to hug her and give her a kiss on the cheek because she was taking care of her. The grandmother was taking care of the granddaughter, Lorraine, when Lorraine was younger. So Lorraine has this deep love for her grandmother. She said, my grandmother did everything to make sure we were good growing up. She loved all of us dearly. We had to wake up for prayer meetings and devotions both day and night, a tearful Lorraine said, just like my own grandparents. If I video call her any time of the day, she is always happy to see me and to hear from me, and I told her I was coming soon, and now she's gone. We did everything to make sure she was comfortable and happy because we didn't want her to stress and anything bad to happen to her, her granddaughter Lorraine added. Palmer, who migrated away from Jamaica 28 years ago, last touched his mother in the flesh 2 years ago when he attended his own sister's funeral. So of her 13 kids, she lost her daughter last 2 years ago, and her son was there for his sister's funeral and there for mom. Lorraine, which is her granddaughter, this son's daughter, left Jamaica at age 4. She last saw her grandmother in person in 2013. Now there are lots of comments on this thing. I always wonder how come Jamaica news media always shows the face of the person who was victimized, but they never show the person who did the victimizing. They never show the culprit. They never show the criminal. They always show the victim's face. I don't understand that. But anyhow, beyond that, this lady was obviously one of the grandmothers that I'm talking about. My grandparents had 7 children and they raised their 7 children and made sure that everybody was good in life before they stepped out into the world on their own. And then my grandmothers and grandfather turned around and took all their grandchildren. At one point, it was 7 of us in that house again. Took all their grandchildren from their children and said to them, we will keep the kids. They can go to school here and we can look after them while you all go out into the world and make sure that you put things in place so when the kids get there, the kids aren't in shambles. So not only did they take care of their own children, they raised their grandchildren as well. Shout out to my grandparents who are both still alive on my mother's side in a beautiful Clarendon, Jamaica. And just like they said about Miss V, her granddaughter said, we used to have to wake up for devotion and morning prayers and these things. Same thing for my grandparents. These are the old school grandparents that I talk about. These are the people that are the glue to the family. They stitch it together and they hold it together, you know? So to see her have 13 of her own children and then so involved with her grandchildren, to go out like this, that is a messed up end to a beautiful life, man. A messed up end to a beautiful life. Yes, demons walk among us in the flesh. And sometimes that demon is somebody that is way closer to you than you will ever guess. Sad, sad, sad. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. And we will stay on this story because you know how the sentencing and the court system goes in Jamaica. So we will stay on this story to find out how much time this person is given for such a gruesome crime. I'm out. Hit that subscribe button. And I'll catch you on the next video. It's SouFLoTV. Walk good, my people. One love.